G'day, folks. AoS Coach here, and we are talking all things Sons of Behemat. I have found one of Poland's finest to help us unpack how we make the most of all of the war scrolls in this book. And yeah, that's a joke. There's like 6 or 7, but here's hoping that we've got a lot more coming down the way when it comes to a battle tome. Hopefully isn't long, but we can only pray to Yimnog. Speaking of Yimnog, we've got Victor Szafranski that I have partially gotten acceptance from, that I pronounced his name correctly, but he tells me that he's been kind. He's been really kind. But Victor, Bottom Table Bully, you went 6-2 at the Nova Open. It was an 8-game event. Like, why am I saying 6-2, not 5-0? It was it's a 8-game event. You ranked 12th out of, was it like 160 odd players? I think it worked out to be, give or take a few. But you did incredibly well with Sons, and it's about time that one of my favorite armies gets talked about on the channel. Victor, welcome. Introduce yourself, and how do I pronounce your last name properly?
Hello, my name is Victor Szafranski. I'm a local Chicagoland player here in USA. As you've mentioned, I've just attended at Nova. Phenomenal area, phenomenal GT, phenomenal just Con and everybody else playing out there. Again, a lot of East Coast are Bottom Table Bullies, Caleb, Walters, Scooter, and the gang. So got a chance to hang out with them. And it's a lot of tough crowd players, a lot of just different clubs. As you are aware, we have only so few GTs in US, but when we do, everybody just comes from all over the country. So
you got plenty of GTs, but Nova is one of the biggest. So Nova, LVO, and Adepticon are the big 3, I guess, in America. Nova, by the way, is on the bucket list. And obviously there's a lot of other great events as well, like NashCon. So like, if I announce your event, there's a lot. I can't announce them all. But one of the things that I'm really excited about with Nova, and why it's on my bucket list, is it's a charity-based event. So there's a lot of great charitable work that goes through the Nova Foundation across all of the game systems. It seems like a really, really, really cool event with a really good spirit. So Nova has definitely been high on my list for a long period of time. So one day I'll get there. But what we will get to is Sons, and interesting time for Sons, in my opinion. From a meta perspective, Sons are doing Sons things. Sons aren't at the bottom. They certainly aren't at the top. They're at the high middle, right? They're doing pretty well on the competitive scene, but it's certainly interesting with all of the new 4th edition rules. Manifestations are running wild on the tabletops. So Victor, I really want to understand, where are we at? What should I be thinking about? How do I make the most of Sons? We'll talk through the rules. We'll talk through some lists. We'll talk about some of our favorite units and why. But how are you feeling about Sons so far in 4th edition, given what's going on in general?
So I think that our core is very strong, right? Again, 35, 40 wounds, bodies, holding. We don't degrade as much as we used to, which is tremendous. It makes it simple for rules purposes to be able to just, navigate the army from round to round without any major hiccups, right? You got 35 wounds. Oh, you lose an attack. Oh, you lose 2 attacks. So your performance generally doesn't go down throughout the entire game. I would say one of the big things to look at is just the rules as written, right? When it comes to just the 4.0 edition, not even looking at Gargants as a Gargant army, just big models, big monsters, and what you can do to leverage some of these new rules like power through, right? Which is insanely important for Gargants going forward. Yeah, you have to be utilizing it every turn almost, I would say.
How are you feeling about them in general? Just like, are they competing well? I know you went 6-2, but was that luck? Was that something that you think we handle the meta quite well? Do you think that the lack of endless spells or manifestations, yes, there's routes to it. Don't at me at this point in time, folks. Let me get there. But we can't rapid fire out like 4 manifestations in a hot second. Are you feeling like confident? Or is this a good time to play Sons right now?
If you want to have a good time and just go like 2-3 or 3-2 on a GT, absolutely. 4-1, I think you're at that point, you're already pushing it. You have to have proper matchups, get lucky, not encounter some of the big bads out there.
Why do you say that? Is it something inherent that we don't have, or is it because look, I say this as well because we've only had one balance, the 30-day kind of balance, and hopefully there will be a 3-month balance and a 6-month balance, and there's some things that still probably need to be reined in a little bit. But do you think that it's just an adjustment to other armies that will help us kind of rank up, or is it some things like, and I'll throw some examples, right? We don't have an arcane tome. In 3rd edition, we had access to additional magic. So we could get an arcane tome, not on the menu. There's no mystic shield. So to save stack, and that was one of the big benefits of Gargants, not available. The manifestations we talked about, we can't really get a lot of them. And to do it, you've got to build a certain way. Is it us? Or is it that other people are just maybe a little too good, and that's our barrier to go 4-1 and 5-0 at an average event?
I would say yes, that's absolutely what's causing it. We have a little bit of an imbalance. Cavalry is running wild, so I would say that's one portion of it. I think there's about 3 lists right now that you're going to see in tournaments. One, heavy cav army out there punching you. And what I would say is Gargants used to be the fast army, movement 10, movement 12. You're no longer a fast army. You're mid-speed at best at this point. Most of these armies will get you 18 inches, 20 inches, 3d6 charges, 6 Varang guard, 10 of any cav of variety will punch Gargant down, stacking debuffs. So that I would say that's one bucket of lists. Second bucket of lists is lists that shoot. So lists that take advantage of covering fire and priority target. And we've seen that a lot. For example, Caleb won with such a list, running 2 units, doing that every turn, min-maxing and just applying constant pressure and damage. And you're going to also have a hard time with that. And the third army, and I would say this is the funnest bucket of armies, are counter-meta armies. So like we mentioned, Sean running his 20 Chosen and Bellicor, which is completely, outside of the norm pick. But the beauty of it is he's trying to counter other armies just pushing in, pushing fast. He's trying to counter the shooting army with durability. He's trying to counter the charging list with counter charging. And I think that puts us in the worst situation out of all of them, because all 3, I would say, are probably a bad matchup for us, right? We don't have the speed. We don't have the sustainability. And if we go into like a trap army, I think we're going to fall apart as well. So we have to kind of navigate all 3 matchups as safely as we can.
Which I would say has always been Sons, because I joined Sons. Like when I saw was it Adepticon reveal? When Sons was revealed for the very first time at Adepticon, I think it was, I knew for a fact that Sons was going to be my army. And I remember in 2nd edition going 4-1 and, doing really well in 3rd edition with them as well. And they've always been one of my favorite armies. And they never hit as hard as you think they should. They don't survive as well as they should. But these are not negatives. But what you need to understand, or what I've learned through my time, is it's more about understanding the tools, because you have a concentration of power. You have, on average, 4 500-point balls. Now, obviously, yes, you can get man crushers and in Kragnos, and just work with me here. You have 4 500-point balls of power. It's about how you make the most of those balls. You don't lose them as quick as you hold them as long as possible, but also know how to pilot them, because once they're stuck, it can be a real pain. Like you do not want to be grinding with a Gargant. You want to be punching them, powering through, moving on, momentum. And it's always been about how you pilot this particular army, because there are some battle plans that have 8 objectives. How does 4 Mega Gargants fight on 8 objectives? So, but that's not to say, like, and my preference is not 4 Mega Gargants at the moment. We'll talk about it later. But it's always been about, you've got a concentration of power. How do you make the most of it? but also how do you psych your opponent out? Because they are thinking, how does my minimum size unit of what handle this big gargant? Because you're not going to beat it. You've got to really focus your power, and you can play to that as a strength. Any thoughts of my random ramble?
I mean, you got 100%. They look scarier than they are. You need to apply them as a pinpoint. You have to go with the 3 to 4, maybe Kragnos, go in, destroy a flank, and then just keep rotating. It's not I'm just going to move them forward and charge into my opponent's center, because it's not going to end well. You're going to get pinned. You're going to get locked in. You're going to get debuffed. Pretty susceptible to that, right? -1 save, -1 to hit on a 500-point mile. Terrible outcome. But yeah, you got 100% on the dot. And that's something I've learned over the course of that GT, over the course of 11 games. You have to orbit. Yeah.
I almost think about tag team wrestling. I will avoid fighting 1-to-1. I will take 2 Mega Gargants, or a Mega Gargant and a baby, and I will overwhelm you. I will smash the absolute living hell out of you, and that's how I keep moving forward, smashing things and slowly degrading. And yeah, hit the flank or hit the center, and then kind of expand out or compress in with a concentrated force of power. Because if I can take some of those hits and get 2 for 1, like 2 Mega Gargants into one combat, or I can fight with one, and then let's say there's a Varangard double activation. Cool. I'll have another Mega Gargant smash you before you fight with your last, unless you've got a Braxia. It's just knowing your tools. And I imagine that's true of every army, but for Sons, because you don't have a lot of fat, you've really got to know how to pilot this. And that takes time. It really does take time. All right, nothing else to say there. But I do want to say that, despite some of the things that you said negative, I actually don't think it's doom and gloom. You still can go 4-1. You still can go 5-0. You have a lot of great tools, and we will talk about them. But it's just about knowing your army, piloting well, making the right picks, and not being too aggressive, but also retreat if you have to retreat. Like if you're in a combat you don't want to be in, retreat or power through. Don't stay in a combat because you think you can fight through it, when actually you're better off. You know what? Even the old Gatebreaker doing the rolling the 4 up for the 46 mortal wounds. Like, you know what? I'll roll it. If I'm stuck with an Ethereal Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon in 3rd edition, I'll roll the 4 up. Better than just trying to grind it out for basically no damage. Like, I'll do it. Like, just do it. All right. Anything else, Victor?
I was going to say the one big thing, and adding to the power through, the bodyguard rules. So the honor guard, the bodyguard has probably been one of the biggest keys to any of my success for the entire weekend. And I just can't stress it enough. The -1 attack on Broad, insane. Because everybody's always throwing their biggest hammers directly into him. And that just reduces the amount of damage so significantly.
Yeah, it's obviously that's the General's Handbook stuff.
Yeah.
But man, I love Pulverizing Strike. I just want to tell you how much, I've done 21 mortal wounds to a Star Drake. I have destroyed an Ethereal Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon in one combat. Just roll that 4 up, baby. Roll that 4 up. But back to 4th edition for a sec. How have you found some of the other things? You've mentioned power through. What about things like countercharge or magical intervention? What about things like the smaller objective size that really works to our strength? What about some of the battle plans, or just there's been so many changes? How have you found those impacting Sons in 4th?
I like Rally a lot. I think it's a phenomenal change. Us not being forced to make the command roll anymore. It's just happening now. You can almost always guarantee 3 to 4 wounds. Counter praying with Broad gets tricky. -1. Now you need a 6. But earlier on lets you charge him up, so you can potentially get that big turn. And then I would say, definitely do like the shrines. And you need to be very cognitive of that. The arcane terrain being able to either decide whether you want to give +1 for Broad, or more often in my case, just taking the action of any other Gargant to give yourself an unbind or a banish. You have to do it. It's a big deal. You have to position accordingly for it. You have to get ready for it and just keep doing consistently. And I know it's terrible. Take D3 damage. It feels bad, but you just have to do it every turn. Every turn. Every time you deny an endless spell getting on the board or banish an endless spell, you're succeeding. You're moving forward and pushing that damage trade-off, you versus your opponent, to a better conclusion for you.
Yeah, and you got the speed to get to it, and in some cases your base will be able to tag both an objective and a place of power. So very few armies can actually do that. So I like what you say, and I think there's a lot of things. And the fact, one thing I love about Sons, and I will get to the rules in a second, I swear, you can see how much I like Sons, is the new the new objective size now means that opponents can't sneak onto an objective and be out of combat range. Like if you position yourself in the middle of an objective and not just tag it, it's either you got to come in and face me and I'll fight you and likely win, or you're not going to get on the objective because you're worried about me and I keep scoring.
The other beautiful thing is you don't actually need to be on an objective to stop someone from teleporting 9 inches off you. And I think that's another thing that just keep extending our range. So you can, compress your power inwards while still extending the present outwards on the side objectives. Yeah.
There's a lot of, I know you said we're not the fastest army. We don't have the 3d6 charge shenanigans, but the new redeploy really works in our favor. Countercharge really works in our favor. Power through works in our favor. Like there's no one power throughing us. We are only the ones doing the power through to everyone else, which is delicious. But there's a lot of great movement shenanigans for us. It's now just ultimately the pilot.
Yeah.
All right, let's just get into this. Let's get into the rules. Let's talk Sons. Look, there's a whole bunch of things that we all get. Here are our battle formations, or our battle traits. First off, look, there's a lot of rampage stuff, and it's actually good because there's the universal generic rampage has disappeared, and that was some of the things that I really enjoyed. So at least it's now a battle trait for us. We've lost a few things, but so has everybody. Let's maybe go from left to right, starting with the Gargant charge. So basically, we have a series of rampages. I hope by now you know how rampages work. One is a charge phase rampage. The rest of them are combat phase rampages. It works well because if you're running 3 Mega Gargants, you've got yourself a bunch of rampages. 4, you've still got access. And there's also, is it a heroic trait, I think it is, that allows us to tap into jump up and down multiple times should you find yourself in a position where you need more options. So I guess without reading these all out, because I imagine Gargant players have already read these by now, probably playing with them, which are the ones that stand out to you as ones that you use often, or if you all use them kind of frequently? Tell me about how I pick them, or how do I use them? What works for you? What's your experience?
Well, again, Roar is the staple, right? It always was the staple of 3rd edition. The fact that we kept it is phenomenal. And the fact that we can do it on the babies is also phenomenal. And I think that's probably the big thing I've always kept cognitive of is, can a baby roar? Because we want to do the jump up and down or colossal slam with a big boy, right? The other thing is, now that you can actually declare your abilities after, you can keep that charge cooking, right, for the mortals after you complete all your charges. So that's another good thing. I wish personally that we just got impacts, because again, we lost our D6. Terrible thing. The worst thing that could have happened to Gargants. In an edition where they were saying we're going to reduce the mortals, they reduced our mortals, not everybody else's. How it goes. So my one hope is going forward, they will remove the rampage keyword from the impact, so we can just always impact. It's only 1 mile. It's D3. It's not that big of a deal. But for us, it helps, right? It just, a little bit of damage adds up. And then finally, the timber on the very end, we don't need the roll off. let's just put the Gargant down, lay him down on our opponent's wizard.
Yeah, I think you won't find any argument that we should get control of this. Like, I don't know. Like, Timber is a nice little thing. It clearly doesn't. We don't get to build into it. It's not like I'm going to build into the Timber rule. It's a nice to have if it goes off, but the likelihood, yes, please change it, fix it. I think people like Vince and I have been screaming about this since second edition. Like, why do you get to pick how I get to use my toy? Go away. There's no other army lets me use Be'lakor's rules. No, I don't want you to use Be'lakor in this army. Go somewhere else. No, let me use my Timber. Go away. But yes, I do feel the pain as well on the Gargant charge, and probably picking now where you want to use the Rampage now. And given that it's a 3-up on a 2+ on a D3, so it's really a 3-up technically on a D6. Yeah. It's not as sexy as it was. It's a nice to have.
Yes. It's the last thing you're going to look at when you do all your charges. You're going to look at, can I jump up and down on a 20-man unit? Can I Colossal Slam enemy Be'lakor out of his Chosen, right? And make him lose his Rampage. Obviously, I'm going to roar no matter what. Okay, so then the charges become the last option, right?
All right, so let me unpack this a little bit. Jump up and down. It clearly benefits an army going into an infantry unit, especially one that has multiple models. More models, more chances for the 5-up. So it's our horde clearer ability of the 4. So in my mind, infantry, lots of units, go into that. Which isn't too bad for our Nighthaunt friends, for example, terrorizing the meta right now, but certainly isn't our only solution to that problem. Colossal Slam is working against monsters and war machines. Very few war machines I'm worried about right now, but it's a nice to have. Right now, who knows what's coming, but right now, I feel like war machines is a space that Games Workshop needs to start playing more into. Like, it's so little war machines in the game, but we'll see what happens there. But our monsters, especially our monster heroes, right? This is where we're able to do that 3-up, remove them. What do you do with this? Is it just the D3 mortals for you, or are you thinking about taking them off objectives? Like, how are you thinking about using the Colossal Slam?
Well, I mean, the key is always to kind of isolate the targets. With Gargants, we've kind of mentioned that a lot. You want to look for picks. You don't want to go in all in, and this kind of lets you make some of the picks. The beauty of it is if you do it reactively in your opponent's turn, you can potentially put more Gargants in combat than your opponent was anticipating. That's always a lovely thing to do. But yeah, it also can potentially, never had to do it this way, but you can also maybe do it defensively, right? Save a Gargant that's about to get destroyed by some big monster and move that enemy Mal away from the combat range on the other side. We do get an inch. We don't get 3, sadly, not just full combat range, but an inch is an inch, right? An inch from one side, an inch to the other side, and then the base size. So we're definitely playing in the millimeter space, for sure. For as big as the Gargants are, pipe plates, I think we have to stretch every little bit, every inch, every millimeter we can, just to get the best positioning on the opponent's models.
Yeah, the most frequent use I've done with the Colossal Slam, to your point, is bringing in when a monster has gone into one of my Gargants 1-on-1. If I'm able to bring them in and make it a 2-on-1 fight, that's definitely the area that I've used it the most. Being able to position it off an objective and blocking, maybe they were on objective or they've charged onto an objective and I'm going to lose it potentially. It's a way for me to manipulate the board. Yes, like they'd have to have some troops as well. A monster's not going to take it off a Mega Gargant, but you can use it defensively or offensively. It's a nice little ability. And then having the earth-shaking roar is obviously going to be nice. The 3-up, you can't use a command. Obviously, we know that's defense or offense, right? No, especially like shutting off all that defense. Or if there's a faction thing.
There's no reason not to do it. You always want to do it. Yeah, pretty much.
Yes, but yeah, absolutely. All right, Eth. No, it's all pretty straightforward. That's why I love Suns. They're just so straightforward. They're straightforward. It is what it is. It's again, this goes back to what we were talking about right at the top. It's about knowing your army and picking what tool to apply at what time. So if you've got multiple, I don't know, monster fights, which is the one that you're going to get the most value out of the Colossal Slam? Like, what does it actually do for me? Yeah, it is the D3, but what can I do on the board to make the most of Colossal Slam, and insert that into any of the ideas that we've talked about so far. Next up, you've got your battle formations. I'm going to ask you how do you rank them 1 to 4? What's your favorite and why?
I would say we have 6 of boards, straight up, always the best. We have maybe an extra artifact, and we can kind of talk about that. And that's being the backup. Finally, I would say the babies, a Mega Gargant with fighting with a baby Gargant, as not efficient as it sounds, it's actually very good because the babies are actually more point efficient for the damage output than a Gargant, believe it or not. And if they receive any kind of point drops to maybe 130, when you can take 4 instead of 3, I think that this sub-faction will definitely see more play. And then finally, 2 jump up and downs. Sure, it's there. It exists.
I want to unpack something for a second. You said the 6 up ward is just great. Like you just said, like it's a... Tell me why. And I ask you this because a lot of people look at Suns as an offensive army. They're like, this is the smash army. They move forward and smash. And what I'll tell you is that they are the defensive army that stands on circles and fights if they have to fight. It's like the Karate Kid. Like I'm practicing my defense on my circle. I'm gonna use the crane to smash you in the face if you come onto my objective. But I'm not Varangard. I'm not running up the board trying to smash you in turn 1 and like delete you.
I think you have it on the money there. We are defensive, and whether a Broad is on 40 wounds or Broad's on 1 wound, he pretty much performs now, as I've mentioned before, the same way he does. He loses 2 attacks, but he still makes 4, still makes 2, still makes 1, right? All applying the damage. So keeping some of the Gargants living longer is definitely crucial. There's going to be a ton of chip damage. You're going to see a lot of chip mortals you're going to be seeing. And this gets further amplified with Broad being able to heal everybody, right? We talked about Broad healing everybody. And then you can do selective rally both turns, yours and your opponent's, without making any specific rolls. Generally expecting 3 to 4 wounds. I would say this is probably the best one, paired with, if you go defensive route, and that's what I did, Bodyguard on Broad with the Beast Smasher. If you charge me with a monster, I can potentially body slam you into the other guy. Now you're -2 attacks, right? So again, just as you mentioned, soaking damage, standing on circles, and just infuriating our opponents because they're like, hey, I was expecting Broad to die. He's alive in 5 wounds. Oh, he heals. He heals again. He healed again. Now he's 10. Now your opponent is lacking the damage to actually put him down. And suddenly he survived the entire game. Didn't lose a model.
I would rank them. So you're saying what? Breaker first, take a second, boss third, stomp a fourth? Is that what I'm hearing?
That's what I would say, yes.
I'm going to partially cheat and say that Taker and Breaker are equal. I think Taker and Breaker are equal. I like the extra trophy purely because I want to get Glowy Lantern. That's the only reason I say it. And like right now, while manifestations are running wild, I think Taker Tribe's a really good option. If manifestations get reined back a little, obviously it depends on how much they get reined back, because if I think about like the meta right now, if I can get myself a Cron Spine, like I can't handle all the manifestations on the board, so a Cron Spine will help me just eat up those manifestations and be a distraction. Amazing. Get that Purple Sun for the extra rend. Get the Grave Tide for the Horde clearing in addition to jump up and down. I think right now, manifestations are too good. They should be reined in, which is why I probably lean into Take a Tribe just for the extra artifact. But But it's not number one. Like, I think it's equal. Like, if you pick either one, you're in a good spot. And then I think that's what I'm kind of trying to say. Like, both of them are really good. And then, like, Boss and Stomper.
Yeah. We almost want to talk about the Lantern by itself, because some of the issues with the Lantern is you're still not a wizard, so you still can't countercast. You don't get +1 to cast from the Arcane Piece of Shred. So you're getting just potentially 5 attempts at getting the Crown Spine out, which, again, once you get it out, you can now contain your opponent's manifestation, as you mentioned. Tremendous, just to be able to rein those in. Yeah, I do agree with you on that.
But it doesn't even have to be the Morbid Conjuration. Like, for me, I love Primal. Gives me more healing through the Emerald Life Swarm, so I could be doing Emerald Life Swarm and King Broad heal. Then I've still got some offensive power through Burning Head and Gnashing Jaws. So, because casting value 8 is really hard on Purple Sun and Cronspine. So, my point is that endless spells are running wild, and we don't have a lot of tools to play in that space. Take a Tribe. Look, you still can get the artifact without Take a Tribe. It just allows you to have something offensive and defensive as well.
One thing I've learned over the weekend is, honestly, the big bad is not Morbid Conjurations. It's the Pendulum. Pendulum is apparently the big bad out there because it can reactively pin you. So hopefully the next time we'll talk, that will be no longer a thing.
Manifestations are a problem. Just flat across the board. Flat across the board, Victor. And this probably will lead into one of your meta picks right now, and one of the ones that I really like. We'll talk about it. But before we get there, talk to me about your heroic traits. So we've got Furious Temper, you got Monstrously Tough, and Rabble Rouser. One of the great things as well, big change for us, is the fact that we got King Broad. Obviously, we don't have to give up the heroic trait, because he can still, being a War Master, happy days, and give this to that Beast Smasher, Gatebreaker, whatever it might be. What's your pick? 1, 2, 3.
I would say Furious Temporal, Rabble Rouser, and Monstrously Tough, which is completely the opposite of what you'd expect.
It's going to be the opposite of what I would say. So go back. You said Rabble Rouser first?
No, Furious Temper, then Rabble Rouser, then Monstrously Tough.
Okay, I would have said Monstrously Tough is still my favorite. I would have gone Monstrously Tough, Furious Temper, Rabble Rouser. Talk to me about this. Why Rabble Rouser?
Rabble Rouser was cool when I did it with Kragnos, because you're doing the thing. You're getting the 3d6 charge, now you're getting 3d6 +1. Normally, I would say it's ranking the least, but because there's a build for it for us, and that +1, it helps tremendously. It really did. Many games did I need that extra inch, and that extra inch is helping you to clear with your Longshanks, which is a nice change we got to pair into the power through. So now you can Longshanks over your opponent's backline or front line into their backline, punch their heroes, power through, potentially maybe on an objective, and you just did like 30 inches with a Gargant, and your opponent's like, wow, how did that happen?
Would you say that, is that still true if I didn't take a Kragnos?
No,
because you've got a build-in mind, right? So, and this is why I said, look, Monstrously Tough is number 1 for me, because we talked about, the best way to play Gargants, or like the most successful, is going to be keeping a Gargant on the board as long as possible. So Monstrously Tough and potentially the 6-up ward, for me, is always going to be, if I can keep that Gargant around for one more combat, I just extract even more value. So that's why I rank Monstrously Tough number 1. But I hear you've got a build in mind. And look, +1 to the charge is great for counter charge. It's great for Kragnos. It's great for, there's so many times where I want that +1. So Rabble Rouser makes sense. Which goes back to, is it just because you got Kragnos, or do you see it as still valuable without Craggy?
I do still see the value. Like I mentioned, rolling Snake Eyes. Command points are very precious for Gargants, as you mentioned, with the counter charge being on the table and being a 2er. honestly, going underdog sometimes it's beneficial because it lets you keep your opponent in check for scoring too many points too early, while you're still tippy-toeing and slowly whittling your opponent's army piece by piece. But yeah, the +1, I would say yes. Monster stuff is just good. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just very, very solid. And then Furious Temper. I think this is the secret sauce for the army, because we have so few combats we can engage in, and between the artifact that we're going to talk about soon, which is the +1 to hit, +1 rend from Broad, Furious Temper. Furious Temper almost accounts to, for example, Beast Smasher having an extra round of combat, which I think is something a lot of people are sleeping on. But you're better off dealing damage than taking damage, right? So
yes, correct. Like I agree with you there. Obviously, Beast Smasher and our Gate Breakers love this. It's once per battle, which sucks. Compared to a passive, I always have 40 wounds, and when you have King Broad on the table, it means you've got 2 Mega Gargants who have 40 wounds. You then have Rabble Rouser, which is passive. Everyone just gets +1 to their charge rolls. It's always on. So, yeah, it's a tough one. If I'm going to pick Furious Temper, I really need to know what I want to smash and smash it hard. And look, with these reinforced cavalry, for example, running around right now, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. I think for me, Monstrously Tough is number 1. It's too good. But I also see the argument all 3 are fine.
Right. Yeah, especially if you're doing the ward save, right? 5 extra wounds, now you're putting a ward save on it. You're getting just more mileage.
Yeah, and like if I can heal, if I'm able to use Life Swarm, if I'm able to use like any other way to just keep me on the table for longer, that's what I need. That's what I need. Especially like if we're worried about these like, Alpha Strike coming on the board, whether it's KO, shoot me off the board very early, it's charging with, again, Varangard, Chaos Knights, some really quick army. I'm worried about Nighthaunt running around, coming up, retreating, charging. Again, more wounds is better for me, but it's not the perfect one. It's the one that I prefer. But I see your argument, Victor. I see your argument. I don't think there's a wrong choice here. I think that's the key. It's what works for your build, which is actually really nice. Like some armies, the faction rules are like there's a clear winner. I think for us, all of them so far have been just pick your flavor. Pick if you are more offensive, if you're building Kragnos, if you're building into Broad, if you're building into what's your play style with Gargants. Are you running one Mega Gargant and all the babies? Are you running 4? Are you using 3? Like, what's your combination? And then each of them will slot in a little differently. Artifacts. We got 1 artifact, unless you go with the battle formation that gives us an extra 1. If you picked only 1 artifact, let's assume we didn't take that battle formation. What's the 1 artifact?
You have to do Mantle of the Tusk's Horns. The +1 to hit is just... it's the biggest thing we got.
Tell me more.
Just there's so many debuffs. For example, if you play against Lumineth, they're going to give you -1s to hit. You're like, well, this is awful. This is terrible experience. -1 to hit on all my Gargants. I can't deal with that. At least this puts you back on 4s. Maybe 1 with all attack back on 3s. Other reason for this is now you can use all out defense in conjunction with this, right? When you're going in. We talked about our best sub-faction being 6-up ward save. So you're already keeping the Gargants generally, close to each other to take the benefit of this. Kragnos benefits from this because Kragnos became Sons of Behemat, which is phenomenal. It's just great. And then finally, just to add to the whole thing, you don't have to be within 12 inches when he uses it, just within 12 inches when you resolve the attack, right? So you can potentially pile around, move around your opponent's army and just keep attacking. Yeah,
it's a pulse. It's basically a pulse. Basically, if I'm within 12, I fight, and then if I then pile in and bring something in that wasn't in 12 and now is in 12, you get the benefit.
Yes, yeah. It's very big. There's very few combats that you're going to be seeing. Generally, turn 2, turn 3, there's going to be that one crucial one where you can put potentially all your Gargants in combat. And because we're 5 inches across, you can quite easily put all 4. Let's say you're running 4 bigs or easily 3 bigs, right? And you're just reaping the benefits of it. Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I worry about with the Mantle of Tusks and Horns is that, again, it's a once per battle ability. So again, it's triggering at the right time, really make the most of it. It's a hard argument when you look at, again, Glowy Lantern. If I'm not running Kragnos, I can tap into the Amber Bone, being able to run and charge, which is incredible. I used to love a War Stomper with run and charge, and it got me out of so many problems, especially being able to charge into and take an objective, or going in and take their land, the battle tactic. That in itself is really good. But like, would it be my number one choice? Like, Extra Callous Feet, not bad. Glowy Shield, okay. I don't think it's certainly not my first pick. If I'm going one pick, again, I'm going back to either Mantle or Glowy Lantern. Like, I love the passive ability of a manifestation lore. Yes, I agree with you. We don't get the benefits of being a complete wizard. It's like a half wizard. But some of those manifestations are possibly worth it. But then if you go up against Lumineth, for example, yeah, you want that +1 a hit, and you're not likely to get the endless spell off. So it's a tough trade.
I think once Cavalry gets reined in a little bit and we start seeing more combat heroes, and maybe with manifestation as well, because right now what I've generally been seeing on my side is most people just take 2 heroes, their backline heroes, their spellcasters, more often than not. So Kingslayer Call is nice, and with Furious Temper now you're getting +3 attacks, with potentially, as you've mentioned, going double artifact, Mantle and Tusk, Kingslayer Cowl. You can potentially have a big punch turn, but it's just not going to happen because people are just not taking those types of units anymore. A combat monster hero. Sorry, yes.
Yeah, no, you're right, because like the King's Slaughter Cow works really well with, say, the Beast Smasher, right? Because there's a good chance that the monster you're going to fight is also a monster hero. So tap into those benefits, +1 attack, plus all the other stuff. It really does. And the funny thing is, the Beast Smasher is always priced better than a Gatebreaker. Gatebreaker is always like the measuring stick because it does the most amount of damage. But the Beast Smasher, when pointed correctly, is actually a really good unit. It's just that it's all meta dependent. If there's not a lot of monsters, then you wish you had a War Stomper or a Gatebreaker. That's what I've always found anyway. It's like if there's no monster hero, I'm like, oh man, like Nighthorn. I'm like, oh man, I wish I had another War Stomper.
Or even Kraken Eater. Pick up 3 little ghosts, put them in the bag.
Oh, the Kraken Eater, yes, another good example. So you reckon Mantle is one, and then if you got a second one, what's your pick? Is it King's Slaughter?
No, you're probably right about the Glowy Lantern. Just having access to the roll is too crucial, at least right now. Maybe King Slaughter down the road. Maybe Extra Callous Feet on the War Stomper once we can get that rolling. But War Stomper is in a tough place right now.
We'll get to that War Scroll when we get to it.
Yes.
It's a little favorite of mine. It's our volume guy, but he's an interesting one. Yeah, I look, again, Glowy Lantern or Mantle would be my number one pick. If I take the sub-faction to go 2 of them, it's probably Glowy Mantle and or King Slaughter Call, depending on how the meta's going. Although Amber Bone is still a favorite of mine. The being able to run and charge is just quite good. But again, it's once per battle, so
yeah, once per game again. Here we go.
yeah, like the old one where I don't think it was restricted to that. Yeah, actually, I'm gonna downgrade it because of that. We want to talk some units. This is so much faster. This is so much faster than other army factions for obvious reasons. Let's talk about Kragnos, the end of empires. So first off, really interesting call out that you made a little early about the fact that he has the Sons of Behemat keyword. Most expensive unit, offers a lot of value, but I want you to tell me, because one of your lists in your Nova list did have Craggy. So talk to me about Craggy in 4th edition, and is it an auto include, or is it like, just talk to me about him.
Meta dependent, as we discussed. Definitely downgrade to his former self because of the 4-up save over a 2-up save. Definitely, we can see the designers definitely valued his 3d6 charge to everybody by a lot because the counter charge existed. So those are definitely the key takeaways. But doesn't degrade as much. Very consistent damage dealer, Ren 3. Move 10, I think he was 12, maybe? But because he has the Sons of Behemat keyword, Broad can give him +2 to move, overcome that. Counter spell, or his spell protection improved. That's very good. And then I would say the coolest thing, and the thing I love the most about him, is his impact. He kept the good old Gargan impact, and if you look at it, the monster impact is actually not 1 inch, it's 3 inches. So if someone decides to keep their monster behind the screen, they're like, I want to protect them. Sorry, Kragnos is still going to touch you within 3 inches and potentially blow you up. So, just a great unit. Definitely not the face smasher he used to be that you could just send right into enemy forces. You have to play very conservatively with him. He is the one that's going to be rotating around your core, but he is the damage dealer of the army. So you're probably going to be rallying him every turn just to keep him tippy top. Probably all-out attack every turn just to maximize the damage output. And power through. Sorry.
No. Is Craggy? I'll share some thoughts on Craggy in a minute, but is he an auto include? Like, is he a unit that we all should mostly, or if not all, start our list with? Like, is this like too good for us?
I think you need to get a bunch of games with Kragnos to get in the mindset of how to play him, because he plays so differently than what you'd be used to. And it took me a while to start catching on. Some of the earlier games I played much closer, much tougher, because I did the thing. I was like, hey, I'm just going to send him in like a missile right down the middle. And that's unfortunately not what he is. He plays more in the KO space that I'm used to, where you're picking targets, picking a 200, 300 point unit, someone put it down the flank, maybe has another unit next to him, where you can go into the Kragnos, obliterate that unit, take some reprisals from the objective runners you engage, and then still tap into the power through and get out. But he cannot take a hit. He definitely does not play in the Gargan space we're so familiar with.
Yeah, he's got half the health of an average Gargan and close to double the points, right? So what you're getting is much better damage. You're doing the 3d6 charge. You're doing the impact rampage hits, which I've mentioned many times. I always roll a 1 on that 2d6, which makes it a complete rubbish. I've never done better than 5 mortal wounds on that that Kragnos charge. Never done more than 5. And then look, the shield works quite nicely with the current manifestations that we've been talking about. Running what? Oh, is it manifestations or is it just spells?
Just spells.
It's just spell abilities. Yes, sorry, I was thinking it was manifestations. Like,
I wish.
Yeah, it used to be manifestations, wasn't it? Am I going crazy? I thought it did.
No, I think he had to be targeted, and you had a chance on 3d6 to like beat the spell.
Yeah, there was something bizarre. Anyway, the point is the 3d6 charge, the damage output, that, and then the monster impact hits, certainly what you buy. Oh, so the 5-up ward. The 5-up ward is quite good, but it's not as survivable as you think it is. So do not just charge it forward. I think one thing though, Victor, and maybe you can tell me if you faced this, is the priority targets for the current General's Handbook make me nervous investing in Kragnos, because if a Stormcast army, for example, with a reinforced unit of long strikes is on the board, I can probably kiss Kragnos goodbye, and that's 1/3 of my army.
Yeah, well, that's why you always take Broad, and Broad's the one's going to be taking the brunt of the priority targets, and hopefully they'll fix that too. So, as we've seen, someone win Nova just using that strategy. So
yeah, and we'll talk to him very soon. Very soon after this episode will coming out. Already booked. Anything else with Kragnos? I think for me, good tool to have. Completely changes the play style of Gargants, and I build into a much more aggressive, take all the artifacts and the command traits, also the heroic traits that are combat focused, whether it's the extra boost to charge, whether it's the damage output. I am thinking about like, how do I make the most, and really just basically what the Varangard lists are doing, which is just get in, go in quick. Even like what ogres do with, you know, their monster trucks, just go in fast, hit a lot of things, just overwhelm them. And then you play the objectives from like turn 3 onwards, because you've smashed them so hard, they just can't compete. But that doesn't work all the time.
To add to Kragnos' secret sauce, I would say people are more conscious of the 2d6, right? Or sorry, 3d6 counter charge. That's always on their mind. We've talked about saving the command points for that. And then I had weirdly good success with actually threatening people mid-table, where they took Seize the Center turn 1. And I was like, you know what? Stops the battle tactic. I'm going to make the roll. And I'm 2 for 2 on charging people midline, top of turn 1. So
top of turn 1, they choose Seize the Center. They go in, they put 2 units on the center, assuming the traditional deployment zone, you're 9 inches away now from the center, maybe 12 at most. Roll a 3d6 charge, especially if you got +1 to the charge from the battle trait we were just talking about. Statistically, 3d6 charge is a 10. Yeah, 3d6 is a 10 statistically. Add 1, it's an 11-inch charge. Good chance of hitting it. You then bring it in, likely combat.
Yes.
And then you deny them, and they potentially wasted some units. And then you have your turn at bottom of turn 1.
It's great.
Not bad, but you got to deploy for it, right? You've got to think about this, and if you know, you got to deploy for it, because otherwise it'll be too hard to do. But it keeps them honest.
Yes.
All right, Kragnos, good, not incredible. You get what you pay for, but know the limitations. What is good, and what probably is auto-include, in fact, I'm just going to say it, it is auto-include. The only unit in this book that is probably auto-include is King Broad. And if somebody is not including King Broad in their army, I'd love to know why, because he is just too good for what you get. He is worth every single point you invest and more. Victor, what do you think? And tell me about what brings you to the party with King Broad.
I mean, as you mentioned, he's way cheaper than everybody else. He's a priest. He's immune to rampages. His damage output's phenomenal. I mean, there's nothing bad about Broad. If we could take 3 Broads, we would take 3 Broads, right? Even at the cost of a heroic trait and an artifact. But I mean, I don't think there's really much to talk about. He's just great.
There is plenty to talk about. All right, let's unpack this for the people who maybe haven't yet to pick up King Broad, because he has been an expensive tool, and it's something that maybe people aren't using, right? So, like, what do we like? Okay, first off, I was talking about monstrously tough, how I love having 40 wounds. King Broad, 40, incredible. The damage output in the melee attack, you've got a nice anti-infantry, a nice anti-hero, and the obelisk doing 5 damage is delicious.
And 6 attacks.
I wasn't even going there. Yeah, he's gone up. Didn't he have 4? He had 4?
4, yeah. 4.
And then it degraded.
Yeah, it was 3s by 3s, something like that. Yeah.
So anyway, 5 damage. That's a really big combat threat. He punches better than he used to punch. Creepers, nice to have. It's a nice to have. And if you can shut off all that defense. Oh, no, sorry, it's not. Sorry, wrong. Sorry. It's rampage abilities now. It used to be something different. You shut off rampages, not bad. It's a nice to have.
What we generally see is when people include a monster in their list now, they take it because it's got a specific rampage, and you being able to 50% of the time take it off. The reason I say 50 because he has to be the target, right? Not always do rampages target him, but yeah, huge.
Yeah, if Brod is the only Mega Gargant in combat with that monster, then yeah, you essentially shut off that rampage ability. So it's a nice to have. It's not, again, something I build towards. Like I'm going to run Brod into this unit just to shut off their rampage ability. Longshank, we've already talked about. It's just a passive ability. It's nice. Sons of Behemat rule. Look, the reason people are taking Brod is the prayer, the power of Behemat. That is the one key thing that you want to be making the most out of Brod. It's not the melee, it's not the wounds, it's the prayer. Victor, tell me about the prayer. Tell me about what you use, because there's 3 options, right? I can do the Shadow of the Mountains, Might of the Earth, or Pummel all to dust. The big change here before you start introducing is in 3rd edition, it was once per ability. So you'd use the power of Behemat, you'd do +2 to move, and then you could no longer do that for the rest of the game, but you could do the other ones. Now that restriction's off the table, which changes the game fundamentally with Brod. Tell me more.
The +2 move, I would rank it number 1. The heal is number 2, and then the rend is number 3, in my opinion. And that kind of follows up of what you've mentioned, where they're to stand on points and potentially get to the points. We want to be able to make the picks, so that's the movement. It also applies in our power through phase, so it gives you effectively 4 inches. Phenomenal. Healing all the Gargants and Kragnos, phenomenal. Keeping us alive as long as possible. And then the rend, it is nice, but with Ghost around, with us potentially making 1 or 2 successful attacks with a Gargant each, it has its variance. Unless you have that big turn with +1, everybody, you do the Wog, you do the Mantle of Tusks, maybe you got Furious Temper, well then yeah, you can get the full advantage of the extra rend. But definitely want to keep fueling Brod, countercasting with Brod. We discussed it with Arcane Terrain, getting the +1, making sure you load them up turn 1, potentially turn 2. Sometimes saving it up is good, but I found more often than not, if I luck into that 10, I'll use it. But if not, generally popping the heal every turn or the 2 inches of movement if I need to get to a target I'm trying to remove.
See, you talked a lot about power through, and for me, my one command ability I save every game is for Power of Behemat, being able to do magical intervention in my hero phase to keep boosting up that number so that I can almost guarantee myself every round that I'm going to get the Power of Behemat. The 10 plus, even better. But for me, getting the heal, getting the extra rend, obviously Nighthorn aside, all 3 of these are really good. Turn 1, Shatter the Mountain, +2 move just makes objective control, moving around the board, doing your thing, just so much better. Reducing charge abilities, whatever, like the distance for charge. Turn 2 is depending on how the pace of the game's going. If someone has gotten close to me, I'm more likely to use Pummel, and then I'll heal from turn 3. But if someone's been super aggressive and I'm in combat from turn 1, then Pummel might come to the party a little sooner. But movement, or hell, if I can get, if someone's been really aggressive in me in turn 1, I'll go Pummel and I'll just go smash them. But if they're like, they didn't quite move to the center of the board, then maybe I use the +2 to move, right? So it's all situation dependent. All 3 are incredible, and all 3 of them being able to be used every round as opposed to that once per game, incredible. Incredible.
I really wish Pummel was around, not turn. That's my only gripe with it. If it was the full round, I would say yes. It would definitely take the number one spot.
Yeah, but moving like your Ren to 3, right? Like for me, it's like that one turn where you really want to swing the momentum and just crush them, right? Moving moving that obelisk to Ren 6 attacks. Let's say you use all out attacks, so it's 6 attacks, 3s, 2s, Ren 3 for 5 damage. What don't you smash? Like with the stomps and the grip, like what do you not smash with that? Like good luck to you, especially. Yeah, it's just, and if you're able to shut down, the commands with the earth-shaking roar, good luck to you.
I think, as you've mentioned, it's just a toolkit, and being able to pick the precise moment and not being restricted to once per game is tremendous. That was the only gripe we had with the artifacts and enhancements. Once per game. And this is just, it's a 5, but as you know, a 5 on a GW dice is kind of like a 4-up. So 50-50.
And it can't be countered. That's the thing as well. Like it's not like a spell. It can't be countered. I just got to get that 5. So for me, King Broad, number 1, every list starts with a King Broad. Now, you have been very passionate and vocal about the Beast Smasher. It's one that I always include in my list, and it's one that seems to get dropped pretty quickly because staple lists have always been Gatebreaker, War Stomper. Now, point dependent, when Gatebreakers are really high, I bring the Beast Smasher in. But talk to me about your experiences, because I haven't played enough about with the Beast Smasher in 4th edition.
He's still worse than the Gatebreaker. No doubt about that. With my experiences, if you can take a Gatebreaker over a Beast Smasher, you should. But out of the 3 other, so I would say Beast Smasher, Kraken Eater, and War Stomper, I think he wins out. And it's specifically because of the passive he's got going. The passive of -1 attacks is just tremendous. In certain matchups, it can probably win you the matchup. And as I've mentioned, I've paired him up with Broad, Bodyguard, another -1. If my opponent has Archeon or any big bad, I mean, they're just going to have a terrible time. So you definitely do want to have something like that. And hopefully we'll see more monsters as, like I said, Cavalry reigns in. But just good. Just good. Never done the Beast Smasher strike. I've yet to achieve the 4-up there, even an attempt, because I'll take the 4s by 2s and the flat 5 damage. It's just very consistent. Generally get 1 to 2 through. It just feels good. Yeah, that's about it on my. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, look, it's a good unit. I think it's a meta pick. Beast Smasher to me has always been a meta pick. If there's a lot of monsters at the table, I will go Beast Smasher every day of the week. If the meta isn't strong enough with monsters, or I don't think I'm going to get enough value, I will not pick a Beast Smasher. It does bring some unique things to the party, like the -1 attack for enemy monsters, but sometimes the best defense is offense, and a Gatebreaker just smashing you in the face before you strike is better than the -1. But it's not a bad scroll. It always depends on the meta and the points pick. How many points is it, and how many monsters am I likely to see? And you're right now, there's a lot of Cav. But did you have it at Nova?
No, it was mostly Cav and shooting. Yeah, very very few matches where there are monsters. I think maybe 3 out of the 11 I played.
Did you take a Beast Smasher though to Nova?
Oh yes, I did. Yes.
Do you stand? So despite the cavalry being strong in the Nova meta, do you regret taking the Beast Smasher, or do you think that even though there was a heavy cavalry meta and endless spell meta, it still justified its points?
I think he does, yes. Based on the matchups I had, mainly, but if you look at some of the top tier lists we've seen at Nova, I don't think he warrants the pick. But moving up through the upper middle, the middle upper middle tables, yeah, I did get to see a bunch of monsters. and that warrants the pick. It keeps them more honest. It keeps. I had a chance to play against Khorne with the 2 Bloodthirsters. That was a very good pick. Even against Be'lakor, I'll still take it. Takes away his attacks, keeps him honest, not throwing the guy in. No, I would say he definitely has a place. And then the best combo I was able to pull off was to power slam Trug between Beastmaster and Broad and give him -2 to his attacks. And again, that's, as we talked about, we are kind of like this tanky army that wants to steal points and take hits. It's 2 less hits coming our way. So he's okay in all the matchups, but if your opponent has a monster that's 500 plus points and relies on the output, it gives us definitely an edge.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The thing that always gets me to drop the Beast Smasher or swap it out for a Gatebreaker if I've got the points is the lack of a shooting attack. That's the one thing. If the Beast Smasher had a shooting attack, even if it was like a subpar one worse than the Gatebreaker, I'd probably say yes, I'd take it. But when I look at a Gatebreaker and I think, right, consistently it does more damage, and probably it's the next War Scroll. It consistently does more damage because it's got a higher damage profile consistently without the monster stuff. And it's got the boulder attacks. It gives me versatility and I can tap into things even from turn 1. That's why I'll go to Gatebreaker every day of the week. That's probably the one thing for me. I'm like, Kraken Eater has a shooting attack. War Stomper, no, but War Stomper is usually the cheapest of them all. That's the difference for me.
And you can pick any target to do the 4-up mortals, as opposed to Beast Smasher only having to do it against monsters. I think that's the biggest turnoff, honestly. It has this big War Scroll thing. It's got a big War Scroll thing that I've never really used because I'd rather hit him 4 times with -3 Ren than attempt this, right? Here, at least, if you get stacked with debuffs, you can just, in a pinch, always throw the 46 mortals on a chance.
Yeah, fair. While we're talking Gatebreaker, I might as well let's talk about it, right? Like, every list usually has a Gatebreaker, if not most of them do, and it's the highest damage output of them all, right? There's a lot of faction terrain right now. Slaves just added one. Stormcast will be adding one. Like there's a lot of faction terrain, so getting the extra terrain for the flail is delicious. It's got the shooting attack. It's got damage for 6 attacks. Like it's a good damage profile. It's what you kind of expect. You can get out of those really tough situations and roll that 4 up and just do 46 mortal wounds. Like it's just the damage dealer. Like its role is very clear. The Beast Smasher fights monsters. Gatebreaker just smashes. Is it auto include though, Victor? Like does your list always include a Gatebreaker?
Yes, I would say after you do Broad, start looking at the Gatebreaker and then move on down the line. I didn't have it with the Kragnos list because just the way the points worked out. But as I mentioned, if the babies were cheaper, you can easily swap out the Gatebreaker for the Beast Smasher, no problem.
Yeah, and there's been plenty of lists where I run 2 Gatebreakers. Like for me, I'm happy to run 2 Gatebreakers. It could be like Broad, double Gatebreaker, and then all the babies. Yeah, I don't know. That's how I prefer that.
And I would say you also mentioned Broad is an all-include, and you should never stray away from it unless you have nothing but Night Hunt in your meta. Then you might want to take 4 Gatebreakers.
And that's the thing, right? The 4 up, it's like, look, I've tar pitted into 20, I don't know, chain rafts, or I'm getting stuck in with, hex raids. Okay, well, the rend is not going to do a lot. And you know what? I don't have enough command points, or it's just not worth the spend. You know what? I'm just going to do 46. And if you're stuck in combat with them for a couple of rounds, even 2 rounds, right? Hopefully the dice gods are favorable and you hit one of them. That's 46 mortal wounds, which is probably a much greater output than you would have gotten by rolling all those profiles and then they just save. because what, like the flail, okay, assuming if you stick on 4s, you're getting what, 3 through. If you hit all out attack on them, you probably get 4 through. You're hitting on 2s, you should get all through. What, one might fail the save,
3.
like they probably save half of them. So like if you look at the sequence and look at like what's likely to happen, you're probably better off rolling the 46. So yeah, sorry, the 46, rolling the 4 up for the 46.
One of the matches I lost, Kragnos over 2 rounds of combat only killed 1 Hex Raid horse. My buddy Bill Hennessy from Bottom Table Bullies bullied me very badly.
What a jerk! That's rude, Bill. You're a rude person. You're a rude person. Something that. So I wrote up a little article, or I got to contribute to an article. Throne of Skulls, Wohammer had asked me for some advice or some thoughts around a list that went 5-0 at Throne of Skulls at GW, and it featured a Kraken Eater. And it seems like the Kraken Eater kind of disappeared for 3rd edition. It was really good in 2nd. Then the battle plans where the value of an objective could change seemed to really drop off in 3rd. That has now started to work its way back into 4th. So which brings to me to, is it time to revisit the Kraken Eater, and where do we rank them in regards to our choices? So what are your thoughts with Kraken Eater?
I like him a lot. I think if you want to run 4 bigs, you want to run 4 megas, I think he has to be one of your guys. You need to have some kind of objective control, and this gives it to you. It's tremendous. I've played him in my KO list with Dwarves as a mercenary. Love the guy. Just being able to control where the points are, where the flow of the battle is taking place, and as you've mentioned, with two scenarios, dictating the points where the objective is, and you potentially being able to deny your opponent points, or make yourself, have easier scoring opportunities by pushing an objective over the middle line, is tremendous. It's definitely a huge utility that you just can't give up.
So how do you play with get him off Milan? How do you think about this? Because like, just because you can doesn't mean you should. So do you kick often? Do you kick forward? Do you kick back? Like, how do you play this game out what advice do you have?
I would say you start off by kicking forward, but to the left or to the right, and you shift your entire force of Gargants left or right, because as long as you can kick one or potentially even both of them across the line, you're automatically scoring your max points for battle tactics. And the most your opponent can score is 3, I believe. 1 in his home territory, 1 in the line, if they choose to shift to the opposite side of you. So at that point, you just win by existing. You don't even need to successfully do battle tactics. You just win the game, which I think is very, very good to have something like that.
Yeah, obviously matchup dependent, battle plan, where the objectives are. You're right. So like, whenever I look at the table, I think, where does the battle likely take place? So if you've got like those battle plans where you've got objectives on the flank, I want to kick them in the center so that I'm not stretched. Like if they've got deep striking and things like that, it's much easier for me to retain an objective because I'm kicking it inwards as my army is moving towards that particular area. To your point, if there's an objective in my backfield and I don't want to be sitting a Gargant on there trying to babysit and protect that home objective that's worth a lot of points, I can kick it forward or I can kick it back, like make it really hard for them to come get it off me as my army goes and fights them. It's really about visualizing where the battle or where you plan to move your army and protecting it or making it easy as you're moving forward, the objectives coming with you.
Yes. Also, the fact that you can countercharge, power through, land on your opponent's objective in his turn, go back to your turn and potentially kick the objective away while freeing up the Gargant to go back to the group, regroup with his friends. I mean, it's a basket of utilities, right? I love it. It's like a sandbox of what you can do with this guy and how you can change the flow of the battle. Yeah.
The other rule we haven't talked about, first off, one thing I love is the 3 shooting attack. It's the only one that offers multiple, like Gatebreaker, it's like rocks or diamonds. It's like 1 hit and it hits hard, or you fluff it and let's not bother. But Hurled Debris has a longer range. 24 inches is very generous, especially when you then add the movement characteristic to this. It doesn't do as much damage, but it's good to chip. But the rule that we haven't talked a lot about, and we made a slight comment towards, is the stuff 'em in me nets. Now, this can be, I don't want to say a game changer, but certainly can help a lot. How do you make the most of stuff 'em in me net?
The best use of it is to tell your opponent that you can potentially pick up and kill their cavalry. That's 3 wounds on a 6-up. That's the best use of it. Be like, you don't want to charge this guy because I can kill your up to 300 cavalry if I roll 3 6s. You know, it can happen. But yeah.
Yes. You've got to double the health, basically, is the point, right? So if you go in for 1 wound idiots on a 2-up, you're taking 3 models off. On a 4-up, you're taking 2 wound idiots off the board. Those 3 wound cavalry idiots, you're fishing for 6s. If you get them, see you later, 3 wounds. Health.
Yep.
Health.
And less damage coming your way, which is, again, just keep surviving, keep living, and keep standing on points.
It's just a shame that we've lost the old ability where we could pick which ones, right? So we could pick the special weapons, we could pick the banner or whatever, the champion in there, because that was a game changer when you had, banners of Nurgle and you had various Grand Hammer special weapons. Like, cool, I'm going to take the Grand Hammer out, I'm going to take this, I'm going to take that. Not an option, but it's still a nice little addition to the damage.
Yeah, but again, if you calculate his damage output, it seems low. But if you can utilize this correctly, I mean, he's definitely up there on the damage output. Even I would compare it to the Gatebreaker, because it's guaranteed. So assuming a 2 wound priority target for you, if you can pick up 2 of those guys, I mean, that's effectively 4 successful mortals going through. That's like an extra successful hit. So suddenly he's a 6 attacks on 4s/2s on the very top profile, if you account for that. Yeah.
Kraken is a utility piece. It's not the best at anything, but it does, other than kicking objectives. So, like, if you want more damage, your Gatebreaker, your monster, your Beast Smasher is better. You want volume, it's the War Stomper or your babies. If you want like magic stuff, you're clearly going to Broad, although it's prayers. Like, it's a good little utility piece. Which is why I'm like, oh, do I need 2 utility pieces? Do I need Broad and the Kraken Eater? Outside of like get them off me land, I always find this one hard to justify. But that rule is bloody good. But you have an issue with the War Stomper. You think it's not as good as it used to be. Tell me more, my friend.
So just like you, this was my favorite pick for all of 3rd edition. Outside of that -1 damage matchup that existed with Saurus and maybe some here and there armies, because again, as you mentioned, you got to roll 10 dice, 2 damage each, 20. It wasn't as tall of a ceiling as a Gatebreaker back then, but being able to do so many attacks, it just felt good, right? You were consistently putting out damage. His hurl body abilities was out there, but again, helped add more damage. But the change that they did, it's not the best, in my honest opinion. It could guarantee you more attacks if you hit a 20-man block, but if you don't, then his output is completely not warranted points, right? And I think that's kind of the big issue of him.
Tell me more. I've got thoughts, and I'll share thoughts after you. But tell me more about, because I imagine what you're saying is you're disappointed in the changes to the Titanic Boulder Club, right?
That's correct. Yes. So, I mean, looking at it from this perspective, your preferred target would be 20 bodies, right? 20 bodies, you're going to always jump up and down first before even swinging. So it's never going to be 20 bodies. It's going to be probably, I would say, 16 or 15. Let's just say 15. So you only get 6 extra attacks. So 10 attacks, 4s/2s. You're in the Gatebreaker territory. Maybe not even, right? The hurl bodies exists, but it's a die roll, and it's all or nothing. I do like the change that now it guarantees the crunch and the throw, as opposed to you doing it twice, which is a great change. You know, you don't want to roll so many bodies to results, to have different kind of results. But I would say that replaces his shooting attack in comparison to the 2 other Gargants we've mentioned. Anti-infantry is great, but currently cavalry is ruling the meta. If they had anti-infantry and anti-cavalry, then I would definitely give them much bigger props, especially people liking to reinforce their cavalry. You'd be seeing a 10, so 8 attacks. Maybe not the biggest amount of attacks, but at least still a good enough threat with Ren 3. So
I think my question to you back is, and look, I hear your disappointment, and it's actually I have a different reason I'm disappointed, because correct me if I'm wrong, the Titanic Boulder Club, if you were still into a monster, you would add 4 to the attack characteristic. So if you go up into a monster, then this new War Stomper is you're rarely going to win that combat. Old one would, and I've happily gotten through it. But now not so much. I guess my question back to you all would be, is jump up and down still the right choice? Let's say we've got 20 models in the unit. You jump up and down. Statistically, that's like 3.5 models that will die from mortal damage. Is that 3.5 wounds worth trading off for the +2 attacks? Like, am I better off not jumping up and down, getting the extra attacks, and potentially doing 2 damage apiece? Now, obviously, that will depend on the armor save and like what I'm going into, because the jump up and down attacks might be better for, you know, like certain type of things where maybe I'm better off, especially with the infantry, to be doing the Boulder Club. But I don't hate the club as much. It's just that the monster piece means the utility and like the value makes it a little harder in certain matchups. But I'm still running a monster, a War Stomper with all the ghosts out there. This is our ghost tool. This is what handles Nighthaunt, because I don't think anything else really, other than relying on the 4-up on a Gatebreaker, helps me win that fight.
I would say the value of him goes up drastically if you run double artifact subfaction, like you've mentioned, and you take that extra Callous Feet on him, right? Then suddenly his value skyrockets, regardless if you're going into infantry or not, right? +1 rend, +1 damage, and +1 attack, I believe, right? On the Almighty Stomp, yeah. But I think he falls in the same boat as a Beastmaster, right? Very much matchup dependent.
I think what I'm hearing is that the value of a lot of Gargant armies in 3rd edition would always include a Gatebreaker and a War Stomper. I think now the argument is it's not always a War Stomper anymore. And I think partially because the Kraken Eater now is a viable choice. In the past, the Kraken Eater wasn't. But in addition, some of the changes to the Boulder Club may make it not as strong as the Kraken Eater. And it's a hard one. It is a hard one. I definitely wouldn't take both a War Stomper and a Kraken Eater. And maybe right now, especially with some of those battle plans where there's 8 objectives, I'm actually better off kicking objectives and concentrating my fights. So maybe this is the time for the Kraken Eater, and I just accept that in Nighthaunt it's going to be really hard. But for the most of the matchups, especially cavalry matchups, I want the Gatebreaker. I want probably the Kraken Eater. I want some of these other tools much more than maybe the War Stomper. But then if cavalry get points increased or rules changed and infantry kind of rise again, maybe the War Stomper comes back up. You look like you're either thinking or you disagree. And
no. Sorry.
No, please. Like this is not the agree with me show. Like, if you disagree, disagree.
No, I fully agree with you. I'm just trying to think. I mean, we really haven't seen people run like 40 clan rats or 40 zombies. If that comes back in any shape or form, absolutely, because everything else we have just doesn't put out as much damage, and this would unlock its full potential. The other thing we talked about is Army of Renown. Well, we haven't really brought that up, but I think he is your best guy for that army. Absolutely. Just because the amount of additional attacks you can generate with him, which is very cool. But I think he's the least favorite. He's on the bottom. I would say Kraken Eater is probably up there. The Beast Smasher is probably underneath him. Just kind of matchup dependent. Obviously, the Gatebreakers being the kings for the time being.
Yeah, if I was tier listing this, I'd say King Brod is S tier, Gatebreaker is A tier. I'd say Beast Smasher, Kraken Eater are probably somewhere in B to C tier. War Stomper is probably C to D right now. And it's mostly a meta pick rather than a War Scroll pick. It's not a bad War Scroll. It's just that the meta right now is not favoring infantry, and it's not and because you can't double reinforce units anymore, you're just not getting as much value out of the Titanic Boulder Club that you used to in third. I think that's one of the big things. People are going elite.
And then the final thing to add is anti-infantry is quite prominent in most armies. So people are cautious of putting too much infantry on the table themselves. And also all the other Gargants we have already have anti-infantry on their stomps, which is not the biggest types of attacks, but at least it unlocks it. So the value of it being anti-infantry here is probably the least. Maybe if we start at rend 3, anti-infantry to 4, you'd be like, well, at least it's almost mortals at this point.
I don't need anti-infantry +1 rend. I need anti-infantry +1 damage. If it was more like charge damage against infantry, that is what changes the game for me, because I've got a rend problem. I have a damage problem. I have a small amount of attacks that do high damage. For an almighty stomp that does D3 damage, I could be rolling a 1. There's nothing for me, which is where the volume of the Titanic Boulder Club comes into the mix. So for me, look, I'm making up rules that I want. My point is that right now, infantry is not that prevalent, so I'm not worried about that too much. And the tools that I have can handle infantry. What I'm worried about is manifestations, cavalry. Yeah, they're the two things I'm mostly worried about, and board control. And War Stomper doesn't really help me with any of them. Let's talk. Actually, I want to talk before we go to the Man Crusher. I want to go to the mob. Now, I will stand here and tell you that I am never a fan of the mob. I personally would rather take 3 solo babies or take a Mega Gargant, because they are similar points value to a War Stomper or a Kraken Eater. So for me, I'd rather try to find the points and because it has hold on. It has 1 more wound. Three babies has 36 wounds. Mega Gargant has 35. But there's a 5-up save, not a 4-up save, and it loses half its rules. Victor, talk to me about the mob and your thoughts before I continue.
I 100% agree with you. The only thing that can save this War Scroll is any way to buff additional attacks, because you get the better multiplier. If you had a way to give them +1 or +2 attacks, then maybe there would be a place for these guys to do some damage output. But outside of that, they're a little bit overcosted. We're coming back from 3rd edition where you could fit 4 babies instead of 3. So just like you were mentioning, it's just the wound to save conversion. It's just not there. It's unfortunately not there for the time being.
What you're playing here is the volume game, and there's probably an argument that the War Stomper role could be taken by a Man Crusher mob, because you'd get 12 massive club attacks, you'd get 3 Ed Butts and 3 mighty kicks, plus you'd get 3 rock throw-ins, plus you can run and charge if you're using keep up. you also get 3 stuff from him. Oh no, do you get 3 stuff in the bags, or is it just 1? Roll a dice, pick an enemy unit combat with this unit. Oh, you only get 1.
You only
right?
get 1.
Yeah, so it's not like you get 3. My point is that I need a War Stomper for volume. I wonder if the Man Crusher mob is what gives it to me. I sacrifice that save of going from a 4 to a 5, but consistently I get way more damage from the melee attacks, and I get shooting attacks, and I can run and charge. Kragnos with no Kragnos, like I get really good charging abilities. I wonder if that role is now taken by the Man Crusher mob.
If the point conversion lets you take a Broad, a Gatebreaker, and 3 mobs, they would have to get significantly cheaper point-wise. But you can, for some reason, fit 3 mobs, or even 2 mobs and maybe 2 one-off Gatebreakers or Man Crushers, then maybe. It's tough. It's playing outside of the typical Gargan sphere of standing on points, right? You're becoming an aggressor. But if someone goes aggressive against you, you're just, they're just being removed quite easily.
Can I tell you the one rule that I think this unit needs that would change the value for me?
Okay.
2 or 3 inch coherency. If this had 2-inch coherency like dragons, for example, when you put these 3 idiots right next to each other, it looks really awkward. They're all like, their arms are flailing everywhere. It doesn't work. But if this was 2-inch coherency, which means I have more board control with these 3 models, I think the value changes here as well. I'm probably more receptive to taking them.
I agree.
It's an interesting one. But I think we both agree that right now, especially with some battle plans where they have 5 to 8 objectives, I need idiots. And I will take 2 to 3, 4 if I have to and I can. I'll take a couple of these. Where do you stand on the baby Gargants?
As you've mentioned, because the battle plans exist with multiple objectives, they're kind of a necessary evil, right? You need them to do your battle tactic. You need them to stand on points. They will perish over the course of the game more than likely, but hopefully by then they've done their job. And if you put a Man Crusher and a Mega Gargant in combat and your opponent chooses to go after the Man Crusher with all his attacks, you're like, listen, you got it. You killed him. But at least that damage is not going onto my Mega. Mega's staying alive. He's staying on the point. So even in the moments of peril, do the Man Crushers serve a purpose, right? But yeah, again, we've mentioned that roaring with them is tremendous. You have access to roar. Man Crushers can roar. That is a great thing to be able to do. And then run and charge. Run and charge. Unfortunately, not run, shoot and charge, but run and charge. With Kragnos in my instance, and the +1, I've seen these little guys just make it across the entire table very quickly.
I think now that throwing rocks has gone from to a 5, it used to be a 4 or a 3, but it's gone to a 5 now. It makes giving up the shooting attack to run and charge that much easier. Where in the past, like, do I really want to spend a command point to make it from a 5 to a 4? Not really. Do I want to turn it from a 4 to a 3? Absolutely. Is it worth like not running and charging? If I can spend that CP to go 8 plus 6 and then charge, or 3d6 charge, like that is a heat-seeking missile, and that can pin. I love this for like taking the flanks. I don't want to take the flanks with Mega Gargants, but I will happily deploy them on the flank, turn 1, move up those babies, then move them in, or continue up the flanks and go into the back. They're a great role. I would take minimum 2, but likely what you have in your points is 3. They work well right now.
And you can also power through with them, just as with the bigs. So that gives you just more range on everything you're doing.
You and your power through. Any chance you have to talk power through? Yes, you're right. There's very few things that you can't power through. Power through.
it's mainly because I played that Kragnos nonsense list so much that I'm seeing like, okay, move 8, Brod's Prayer, move 10, run 16, +1 charge, 3d6. I mean, the baby's going halfway across the table, potentially going even after enemy heroes, enemy objective runners. They would hate that. You're loving it, even though you're missing all your attacks, probably attacking the objective runners. But at least you're pinning them, you're slowing them down, and you're kind of catering how the battle is, playing out.
Maybe before I move into lists, I might just quickly ask you, any thoughts on the Army of Renown, that is the King Brod Stomp? And this was something that I played a lot with in 3rd edition when it came out. Loved the rules, loved what it did. A big fan. I am not feeling as much of the love in 4th edition with this. Where are you at with King Brod Stomp? And is it worth trading your army rules that we've just spoken about to do this King Brod Stomp?
Well, I would say the big issue is you lose your existing rampages. You gain new ones, which are very cool, but you lose access to things like Roar, right? The second thing is the prayers. You get additional self prayers, and we've kind of brought that up vaguely, which is the plus extra attacks. That is probably one thing that can help the babies become better if you take a volume of them. Let's say if some way you could field 9 babies and 2 megas, one being Broad. I mean, there's definitely quite a value there. It's also lower casting, but yeah, you're giving up a lot. You're giving up the spellcaster. You're giving up allies. You're giving up +1 to hit artifact. You're giving up your 6-up ward save for ward save that makes you take more damage, I guess. So
yeah, like for me, it's doing a bunch of things that I don't quite need. Although, like there is some interesting rules. I wouldn't write it off completely. I wouldn't write it off completely, but it doesn't stand out to me as much as it used to. I think that's probably the point that I'd want to make here. Like it's fine, but I personally wouldn't run it.
One of my friends, Brett, he played Broad Stomp all year long and loved it, had the best time. And I was like, what do they do? My Broad Stomp, I can't play it anymore. I'm like, you can. It's meant for fun. It's like, no. I want to win tournaments.
And that's what armies of renown are meant to be. A couple slipped through the crack. That was one of them. But most of them are meant to be a fun, different way of building your list, not the competitive way. Yeah. Speaking of competitive ways, we've got 2 lists, and then I've got a bunch of Discord questions for you to kind of bring this home. And interestingly enough, one of the Discord questions that kept coming up, and one that I'm excited to talk about, is the Regiment of Renown. Not Army of Renown, Regiment of Renown. Because we do lack bodies. We lack screens. We lack magic. There's a bunch of things that we lack. And this Braggart's Bottle Snatchers from the Gloomspite Gits, when Victor said no allies, he means regiments of renown, not traditional allies. They're no longer around. We couldn't take them anyway. But the regiments of renown, the Braggart's Bottle Snatchers, also there's like the shooting one from Cruel Boys. There's a couple of them we can tap into. This is really good for us. Anyway, Sons of Behemat, Breaker Tribe, 1980. No spell, no prayer, but we do have that must be wrong. Kronspine Incarnate. You can't. Oh no, you can. Sorry, because you've got a wizard in the bloody Braggarts. I'm like, where's the wizard come from? Oh wait, I literally just said that. I brought a wizard. I'm an idiot. I was looking for Glowy Lantern. I'm like, where's the Glowy Lantern? Oh no, this is an error. King Brod Stomp. You got yourself a Beast Smasher, which is Rabble Rouser, Mantle of Tusk and Horns. Regiment 1. Regiment 2, Gatebreaker. Regiment 3, Regiment of Renown, which is what is it? It's the Gobbapalooza, the Hoppers,
yes,
Squig Herd, Rabble Rouser.
Yeah, Rabble Rouser. You get double Rabble Rouser.
Yeah, so you get four units within that regiment of renown. Talk to me about this list. How's it work? What's it good at? And Tell me more about the bottle snatchers.
So I would say the list kind of does exactly what you want it to do. You have a 3 core of Gargants. They take the center point. They're imposing. Your opponent has to question if they want to go into this. Beast Smasher has the ability to open up the damage here with the extra attacks and +1 to hit. You have the Bowel Snatches working in tandem as would Man Crushers do. So you have 2 units that you can choose to deploy them with the Rabble Rouse in the teleportation device that he comes down on, or you can just put them on the table, which I would probably do. Have them on the field already contesting the objectives. One of the big things you're going to see, at least right now, is a lot of people are taking teleporting units, which makes it very difficult for us to play like a 6 objective or an 8 objective scenario. And then the fact that the Rabble Rouser by himself can appear anywhere on the table 9 inches away is just phenomenal, because that's all you need him to do. Just have that 1 mile, turn 2, turn 3, your opponent chooses to leave an objective because they feel threatened because the Megas are taking center stage, contesting objectives. And in that moment of panic, he leaves the point. If he does, you immediately take it. Also gives you access to run and charge, which you mentioned was one of the favorite things you used to be able to do. He gives you that effectively for free. And one of the beautiful things as well that Braggarts does for Gargants, outside of being a spellcaster and setting up a -1 to hit aura, which works in tandem with Brods being bodyguarded and Beast Smasher giving -1 attacks. So you're creating this massive tar pit of, if you come charging into me, you're going to have all these negative penalties happen. What the Squigs and Squig Hoppers do, and it's something that Gargants lack now, which is just shocking, honestly, is mortal wounds. And those 2 units actually help generate mortal wounds for your army and be able to output against Nighthaunt, right? You have the Hoppers. I think it's 31 attacks, I believe. I'll take 31 attacks against Nighthaunt any day of the week. So the list definitely does feel like it would cover all the bases. It's 1980. And again, Beast Smasher is there to be the optional guy. You can switch him out for a Kraken Eater, a War Stomper. Unfortunately, not another Gatebreaker. I wish we could. Obviously, this list would have 2 Gatebreakers outside of that. And then in the spell lore, it's to flavor. Generally, what you see is if someone has a 1 caster, they'll take the Kron Spine, just roll it. But even with the changes to endless spells, having an unbind every turn from Braggarts is essential. You cannot live without it, because for whatever reason in this new edition, they've created this thing where unbinding stops a spell, but banishing, whether you're banishing a Kron Spine or the Jaws or the Purple Sun, it only takes 6 damage. So banishing is definitely not the way to go. Poor Broad will never use his prey to banish. He will just pray and just pass on the bonus damage to all his friends. So I think that's kind of sums up the list. It does everything we want to do. It has the objective runners we want. It has a unit that teleports, which we don't normally have access to. Gives us a wizard. It's just it. I think this list will definitely be able to take it all the way.
Yeah, the everything that this Regiment of Renown brings to Gargant army is what I need. It's exactly what I need. I need the wizard. I need the manifestations. I got the screens. I've got the movement. I've got board presence. I've got run and charge. Like, it's literally, this is a perfect package. So for me, it's a great little package, and I can see a lot of value. And until Mega Gargants get a native wizard, whether it is a King Brod equivalent that is a wizard, or whether it is some type of additional artifact that makes them a real wizard, not this half wizard with glowy lantern, then this plays well to the meta and adds everything we need right now. So I wholeheartedly agree with you. The second one, and you probably notice that those points are being taken away from the Man Crushers. So you're basically going a Man Crusher mob, or the Bottle Gits. And I think right now Bottle Gits, great pick. Or a 4th Mega, but I think just if you knew the battle plans and if you knew that you're only playing up to 5 objectives on each of the battle plans, then I'm going someone that isn't another Mega Gargant. But if I knew if it was 5 and under, yeah, 4 Megas, no props. The last list, so it's Breaker Tribe 1990, no spells, you've got a prayer in King Broad, but there's no manifestations. Some similarities, you got King Broad, Beast Smasher with the Temper and the Tusks and Horns. You've got Kragnos and 2 Man Crushers, and this was your Nova list, is that correct?
That's correct.
So this is the list that you went 6 and 2. How does this differ?
Well, it doesn't differ too much. You still have the core of King Broad and the Beast Smasher. They still have the Mantle of Tuscan Horns. You have the +1 to charge there. They still form as your backbone of the army, right? They're there to take the brunt of enemy hits. They don't have access to a wizard. They're vulnerable to manifestations, as we talked about. You generally want to tap into any place of power to get unbinds because having them is better than not. You have the 2 main crushers running the side objectives. They're there for your battle tactics. And then Kragnos is there as your actual damage piece. So the army isn't really King Broad and everybody else. I would call this army more Kragnos and friends, right? Everybody else can die. As long as Kragnos lives, he can generally pull out the win for you. Because he's the one that will be outputting the damage consistently every turn for 5 turns straight. Yeah.
This is much more aggro list. This is an aggressive list. You can't be passive. You can't be sitting on objectives and just waiting for the battle. This is the list with If you're taking Kragnos, you need to dictate the terms of battle. You need to be charging. You need to be moving around the board. You need to be in combat as much as you can, picking the right fights, making the most of the charge mortals, the damage impacts, all the stuff that you can do. You can't be sitting there being shot off the board, magicked off the board. You just, unlike other Gargant armies where you can accept that and just sit on objectives and deny. This is smash. Smash, smash, smash.
As we talked about the power through, that's probably one of the biggest things that keeps Kragnos. I know it sounds crazy to keep talking about this. Kragnos is very vulnerable right now. 4-up save, we talked about it. People just pick him up and take him up. It's very sad, but I do understand why they went that route because the ability to 3d6 charge and a counter charge setup is tremendously strong. It denies battle tactics. It stops people from moving. It dictates the battlefield so strongly. The best way I can say this army performs is you have the core Gargants taking the center stage, but they are still kind of corralling. They're moving your opponents in the way you want to go. And the Kragnos is there waiting for a chance to strike, to hit a flank very hard, and then hopefully power through away from enemy core so he can be really picked on. Man Crushers being the flanks, you have them for battle tactics. They're the sacrificial pieces. I've used them many times where I've even put them as a speed bump in front of Broad, being able to take the hit. But yeah, they definitely do perform very well. I was quite shocked. Generally, if you told me 160 points for a 12 wound, 5-up save Mile with not good attack values would be very good. They actually perform insanely well. Couple games I had opponents try to snipe these guys out, the Man Crushers, and it was a rally after rally just to keep them alive for as long as I can, just so they can perform the battle tactics or get the points or steal the points.
And if that damage is not going into your megas, that's also a bonus. But also if they ignore the Man Crushers, they will overperform. All right, there's 2 interesting lists, certainly not the only lists. Are you ready for some rapid fire questions coming from Discord?
Sure.
I hope you haven't seen any of them. So where do we start? So Draconovic has asked, how do you deal with all the debuffs going around?
That's kind of like with the Kragnos list, that's kind of where it's at. You take the debuffs, unfortunately, on the 2 core pieces, which is the Broad and the Beast Smasher. Being defensive, bodyguarding him, taking the aggro, unfortunately, is what it is. There's not much saving it. Hopefully, you tap into Place of Power, get the Unbind, maybe stop a spell, maybe stop a Purple Sun, right? And then Kragnos is the one that is off the center, protecting those guys, being the counter charge, not generally being in range of debuffs. Or if he is, mind you, the one time my opponent cast a spell on Kragnos, I completely forgot, and he took my ward away. I was like, oh, wait, I should have rolled a die. Yeah, well, he's gone. But yeah, generally Kragnos performs very well because he's not the one. And I would say to back that up, the debuffs you generally see is -1 to hit. So Mantle of Tuscan Horns kind of helps counteract that.
Warp 5 Minis, 3 questions coming out of one of our favorite Skaven, well, actually the favorite Skaven YouTube channel. So first off, Jordan's asked, what do you think are the strengths and weaknesses of the army? I think we've talked a lot about like the damage output, the standing on objectives, the wound density. Any other strengths or weaknesses that we maybe talk? Yeah, like what else would you add?
The strength is power through, and power through. And your opponent can't power through against you in most cases. Because we're not the fastest, we're not the spellcasters, and I would say we do okay holding points. I think the strength is we look more scarier than we really are, and that's part of the game too. When your opponent thinks twice about committing units into you, you already have them on the ropes, because now you're moving, you're pushing through, and now maybe he'll just send 1 unit, maybe 2. He doesn't know. I had many times opponents just underestimate the amount of damage they needed to do or overestimate it, right? They destroyed the Man Crusher. They did like 30 damage to a Man Crusher. I'm like, perfect. Did 30 damage to Man Crushers, not 30 damage to a Mega. So
I think one thing I'll call out we haven't quite talked about is the fact that they're so independent, where a lot of armies require that small hero. There's synergy between their units, and that's how, if you can shoot off or magic off or endless spell off one of those critical pieces, then you don't get the unit as good as it is, right? Like, for example, no Abraxia means that the Vanguard can't double fight, or they can't double fight, immediately. Like, they've got to wait, and there's a whole bunch of things, right? There's a whole bunch of units that require that spell, that ability, that whatever. Gargants don't need that. We're just independent, mobile little pieces that we need to worry about. So probably one call out there. Any particular favorite, any favorite tricks?
Any favorite tricks? Power through. Power through is the favorite trick. Being able to charge over enemy front line is, I would say, it's probably the bigger trick. People, because we were not able to do it before, and then you only have to tap into Broad Stomp to do it. So people are not expecting you. Oh, you don't have Broad Stomp? No, I don't. So you can't get to my hero? I can't. How? Well, if I roll like a 7 or an 8 and I go over your guys and start killing your heroes or your monsters. So
I'd say as well, the changes to manifestations and using them. If someone wants to throw a bunch of manifestations on the table, I'm going to use them to charge. And I'm going to charge and slingshot and use my big base to then drag that unit into combat with my combat zone rather than being stuck in an endless spell. So picking the points of battle and where you want to charge and then move and use your combat zone is a nice little trick that I enjoy. And obviously I talked about magical intervention on Broad. For every power through that Victor said, imagine I've said magical intervention with Broad. So that to me is like 1 CP is always there for Broad. And I basically play with 3 CP because that is reserved for Broad.
The biggest tragedy is Kragnos not having Longshanks. If Kragnos had Longshanks, he would be the best guy out there. Yeah.
You and your bloody power through. All right, a couple of other questions that hopefully don't lead to any power throughs. how aggressive do you want? No, Nate asking, how aggressive do you want to be, especially with Kragnos? And yeah, how aggressive do you want to be?
You want to be aggressive, but it's like a mid-tier aggression. And sometimes you might want to hold back and wait. I mentioned you want to see how your opponent position his army. If he keeps everything to the core, then Kragnos has to kind of stay back. You're waiting for an angle to hit, preferably once he splits out. Even if he runs a unit down the flank for a battle tactic, that's a free unit Kragnos can just remove and kill. If there's no reprisals, then you should absolutely do that. And I think that's kind of where it works. You have the Gargans in the center doing the Gargan things, as I've mentioned, holding down the fort, being scary, and then Kragnos is generally hitting flanks, unless your opponent gives you a monster. Then all gloves are off. You're going for that 2-die roll and hoping for big mortals.
Tom asking, how do you go about deployment? Do you have any advice? And obviously matchup dependent, opponent, blah, blah, blah. But any advice when I deploy these big boys?
I think you almost always take the center stage, right? You take the front and center because we are fast, but we're not as fast as people think. And you want to be able to either go left or right at a whim, right? You almost never want to be going straight down. So it becomes challenging. Definitely understand how to break up the battalion and do one deployment at a time. That definitely helps a lot. It catches people off guard. It's something new that we haven't seen in the last edition. So I would definitely study up on breaking up battalions, deploying one at a time, and just making your opponent question, like, how many drops do you have? Oh, I'm a 2-drop, but I could be a 5-drop. So, we can go that route as well.
I think for me, depending on the battle plan, I either like to concentrate my force, like I'll put all of my 2,000 points in like one little like duck mighty V. Like I'll do the mighty V and we'll move up the board together and then kind of move depending on where you need to move. Or I'll take the flank, almost give up the middle and then just compress the flank in, because if I got 1,000 point here, 1,000 point here, very unlikely you can handle that. And then I dictate the battle. I guess it depends on the speed and I'm not too close to the flank because then it'll take me turns to get into combat. But armies struggle to handle 500 points, let alone 1,000 points, and use those combat zones to bring in models. So you're always like 2-on-1 if possible, because so fluffy are those attacks that you might realize you don't do as much damage as you think you should, and now you committed an extra turn. That's how I play. A couple of other quick ones. All right, we're gonna go the fun ones. Where was it? I was going to ask you about Bundo. So Bundo is not an option for us. I mean, you can take him in an order army, but it's those named ones are not for us. Look, if you could make any change, this has come up a couple of times. If you could make a couple of changes, now we know battle tomes are coming. Like, what do you want to see from Gargants in the future? Whether it's rules adjustments, new units, what is it you want to see?
I honestly don't think we need too much. I would love. You're gonna hate what I'm gonna propose. I would love the glowy lantern to go away. I wish we had just another artifact that makes you a priest. So this way you can have 2 priests. That's one thing. I also wish we passively had 2 unbinds and 2 banishes a turn, regardless of what kind of army we play. Because we generally don't have a wizard. So the fact that we have to go outside to find a wizard, it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't mesh with the game. Maybe they'll add something like, if you don't hire any wizards in an army, you get 2 unbinds, and if you don't hire any wizards or priests, you get 2 unbinds and 2 banishes. Because right now with free manifestation, it just feels bad. But outside of that, I would say our impact should not be rampages. No way. Timber, not a roll off. Let's just stop with that. And then this one might be also kind of, people might kind of look at it negatively, but I don't think I'm okay with our movement characteristics or saves being modified by any spells and debuffs. I don't think our attacks should be affected in any way because we make so few attacks and they change them to 4s by 2s. -1 to hit is not just a negative play experience for us, but it's so detrimental. It just flips the army on its head. I know we want to have debuffs and we want to have a better play experience for both players. Maybe go back to the Gargants being 3s by 3s instead of 4s by 2s. I don't know. I don't know how to circumvent that. Oh, and Crag was going to a 3-up save.
I almost wish we went back to the old Gatebreaker that had 10 attacks that hit on 4s, wound on 2s. So even a debuff, you played the volume game. And I think that's where like the change from 2 to 3 was that they reduced the attacks, but they increased the damage. So they're much swingier, but the debuffs hurt even harder, right? So you can be, and that's really where like you got to go, right, okay, well, I've got to just go the 4-up. And like you're so powerless to going for the 4-up, hoping for the 46 mortal wounds. It's an interesting one. It's an interesting one. We can't not be the undebuffable, but the debuffs to us, because we've got so little attacks, it's like it's basically rocks and diamonds. You can sit there for a combat and just do literally no damage, and you're like, this sucks. This sucks. No other army sits there and does a round of combat and does literally nothing.
Also, rolling 10 dice just feels good, as opposed to rolling 4 dice. You know, just from the physical aspect, just holding 10 dice, maybe 12 or 14. But 4, you're just like rolling those four measly dice. Your opponent's making that one save, and then you're like, oh, yeah, take 5 damage. And you're just like, what? And just, you know, you failed one save, take 5.
I want a wizard that is... I feel like they're worried about pulling the trigger on a wizard with 35 wounds. I feel like that's what they're worried about. I will take a middle ground, like a Man Crusher-esque, like not a mega, not a Man Crusher, somewhere in the middle. I don't know, 20 wounds or give me 12 wound wizard, 12 wound wizard or 15 wound wizard, Man Crusher style that I can bring to the party. I don't want to be relying on regiments of renown. I want something native. I'd like to play with magic, that I recognize that 35 wound wizard, mobile as hell, durable as hell, probably makes them sweat at night, which is why we don't have a wizard. We only have a priest. My thoughts.
No, I agree. I agree.
You know, I'd also love to see a screening unit. Give me a beast unit. You know, given that beasts only have objective control of 1, give me some beasts. Give me, I don't know, something that is following the mega gargants because we're leaving crumbs and food and like they coexist and they just want to like, I don't know, like some like Griffhound baby something that is following us, that I can have a unit of like Squig Herd essentially that don't do damage, but can give me some bloody screens and some objective control, or just zoning stuff. Give me some, I don't know, six animals of something. Surely there's some rats that hang around these gargants, or there's some type of, I don't know what it is, but just give me some bloody beasts. It's so annoying. I have to go out of my faction to get a wizard, screens, and like mobile. Like this, everything has to come outside of my army. Just give me something as gargany.
I agree. It's from my experience watching my friends play Gargants as well. It always feels very one-sided. If you go very competitive, then you need to have that strong list that punches through. But when you want to play a casual, like Tuesday night, Age of Sigmar, putting 4 megas on the table, it's a very, very negative play experience to your opponent, because people will build more casual lists, want to have fun, and they will struggle to break down the Gargant. And having that kind of option, even the Man Crushers, I don't think they're just not enough. We want some variety. I agree with you. Yeah,
yeah, and there needs to be a middle ground. There needs to be a middle ground. Or hey, if we're getting really crazy, let's look at 40k with their knights and give me an ultra mega Gargant. Like give me that Titan size, like Yeah, ridiculous, ultra mega, 1,000-point mega gargant that takes 3 army cases. Are going to magnetize it just to travel with it. And like, just let's go crazy. Like, okay, cool. All right. You want a gargant? This is a gargant. All right. 2 final questions, and then we can wrap this up. Luckyloki asking, do you make clothes for your gargants?
No. Wait, clothes?
Yeah, clothes.
Like little outfits?
I don't know if you've seen the guy, and apologies if you're watching this video. I know who you are. I've forgotten your name in this particular point, but he's like put clothes on it. There's like one gargant looks like a pimp and got like, really amazing. I've seen it at LVO a couple of times. It's like top hats and like, I don't know if he's made it himself or gone to like a dollhouse or something, but there's some like really cool pimptacular gargants. So I'm taking no, you haven't raided the dollhouse for any clothes for your gargants, but I have seen your incredible King Brod equivalent of a 40k with, is it Brock or so, you got a very, very cool conversion. It's in my Discord if people want to go see it. I'll take that as a no, Luckyloki. And then final question coming from Tom is, how can you, in good conscience, complain about your roommate snoring when you yourself snore louder than a gatebreaker? How do you retort to Tom?
Earplugs. I've never used them. First time this year at Nova with Caleb, and they worked wonderfully. So earplugs going forward.
Be a gentleman and a scholar. Bring earplugs, and maybe if you snore, give them to your roommates. Victor, we could keep talking about gargants. I love them. I can't wait to see what they do with battle tomes. I know, at the time of this recording, Skaven has just dropped, and there's a lot of cool things coming in the Skaven battle tome. A lot of new units, some new rules, some new ways of building. I hope they start to build into Sons, because people love Sons. People enjoy playing Sons. People don't like the restrictions on what seems to be usually 1 or 2 lists that we all just run. People want diversity. People want to do fun things. Let us do fun things. And yes, we don't have to be 5-0 army, but know your audience. We want to smash things. We want to kill things. We don't want to just stand on circles. Games Workshop, listen to me. I'll happily consult with you on this niche battle tome and the new model range. Just give me that R&D contract. Any shout outs? You want to say hello to your bottom table bullies? And if people want to chat to you, where can they find you on the interwebs?
I will be talking to them on your Discord. That's my shout out. But
your handle is 30 coin.
30 coins, yes. My handle is 30 coins. And then I hope you make it to Nova. Tremendous event, tremendous players. I can't stress enough. Every single opponent I had, the most wonderful people. You play, you have a great time. I can't put it enough. The community is phenomenal. I think the community has gotten better over the years, which is just, I'm like, wait, it was a great community in comparison to some other games out there, but it has gotten better. The judges are tremendous as well. Whether it's people TOing, out there, or even on your Discord, people answering questions. I mean, that's just great to have as a resource. So shout out to those, people that do rules questions day in, day out. And then Bottom Table Bullies. Damn you, Bill Hennessy and Jacob Brandon, my 2 losses, and my club mates. Terrible. How could you? And then
could be worse. You could be fighting your brother in the finals like Caleb and Scooter seem to do often, which is like it's the best story, like going 100 players or more, and it's you and your brother. But it's also terrible that you are the one either being beat at the finals or you're the one that makes your brother lose. So I guess how you look at it, but I love Scooter and Caleb's banter between the two. And we'll have Caleb on the show talking Zinch in the very near future. But Bottom Table Bullies, you owe me a shirt, by the way, Bottom Table Bullies. You inducted me at the World Championships. You're like, I want you to represent. I'm like, cool. Where's the merch? It's almost been a year, folks. Where's my merch?
We'll poke Caleb. Caleb's the guy with the hookup.
Well, I'll see you all at the World Championship, so I'll collect my merch there.
Very good.
Anyone else?
No, just, local guys, local Tuesday nights here in Chicago, Mount Prospect, Games Plus, Broken Ranks guys. Love those guys too. Just like I said, the community here in the States, you gotta love all these guys. Everybody. My Florida guys that came up had some great games too. Yeah, my Georgia guys. I mean, not the Texas guys. We don't like those guys. But
All right.
I don't know. Again, I can't stress it enough. Phenomenal community. If you can take one thing out of our conversation is this: if you ever question going to a GT and you're like, oh, I've been playing this game, go to a GT. Get the 5 games in, get the 8 games in, get the 11 games in. Even if you're a beginner, because after you're done, you're going to be an expert, right? You're going to learn so much in such a short amount of time, and it's never a negative experience playing against all these guys. Yeah.
That's a wonderful insight and probably a great way to wrap it up. Although I will say, Texas, I love you. Shout out to you guys. Ignore this guy. I got respect for Texas. They run a very, very good scene. So always a fan of those guys. And Weird Knobs do a great community service as well. So they make a lot of wonderful resources. But Victor, thank you for your time. Thank you for discussing Sons. I hope this video has helped you understand a little bit more either how to get into Sons, how to make the most of them, how to do well, how to consider building into the current meta or considerations for your next event. They're in a good spot. They're certainly not overpowered. They're also not terrible. It's just going to be how you pilot them. And I think, they are very, very good or they're very unforgiving. It's all about learning. It's all about practice. And Victor's given us some great advice. So let's wrap this up. I'm going to go make some lunch. Victor, you stay on the line for a second, but I hope you will enjoy the video and I'll chat to you all again soon. Bye for now. Thanks for hanging around until the end. I hope you enjoyed that video and you walked away with a few new ideas. Now, if you did, I would love it if you pressed like on the video, as well as left me a comment with your thoughts. The conversation will continue over on Discord, and the link is down below in the episode description. I also want to give a massive shout out to the AoS Coach patrons and YouTube members who are supporting the channel and the growth that you're seeing here. So cheers, you are all bloody legends. And until next time, don't roll a double one on a spell cast.